Hello, this is Mike Zelazny. I am making a short video on the couple of lapidary items I have for sale. Our first item is a 14-inch saw that I've worked on. I bought it as a homemade saw from somebody who was moving and needed to get rid of it. It was just basically the casing at that point and a blade. I did make and attach the hood on it and adjusted a few other items with it too. First off, on that hood you'll notice it does have the two windows with the plexiglass barriers to add some light in. The carriage where you're going to attach your rock is driven by a cable with a counterweight on the other side of it. Okay, so you'll see that this counterweight attaches back to that same cable, goes through the pulley and into the saw. You'll notice back here where the cable leaves the saw, that's a rubber gasket so that your cutting oil and fluid and whatever isn't going to splash back out of the container. Also at the bottom of the casing, you'll notice that metal mesh. I know it's kind of hard to see right now, but it just acts as a filter over top of your drain hole to collect any sediment before it clogs up your pipe. And then you got the 14-inch blade. The aluminum carriage is held onto the rails via a couple of C-clamps. They're really just there to make sure it's not going to pop up and down with your rock or anything like that. They're not a hard connection to the rails by any means. So if you notice, this does move fairly easily back and forth. If you want to put some PB Blaster or WD-40 on the wheels, every now and again that probably wouldn't hurt, but it's by no means stuck or anything like that. I also did attach a pull push start button. So I know this is a little dark right now, but that's the button right here. So I am plugged into my 1/4 horsepower motor, and the motor comes out through a cable and into my power strip. Again, you're going to see the counterweights hanging there. The interesting thing about how this motor is rigged, it's rigged on a hinge piece of metal going to the back frame, and then the motor attaches to the pulley, and the pulley with the belt back up to the saw. So really the tension on the pulley goes directly to the motor, and then the motor tends to the frame via this clamp here. So if you want to take your pulley off, all you got to do is turn this little yellow knob, loosen this up, the motor will flap up and down, and you can pull that belt right off. So it's really easy to change the belt. You'll also notice I've added a garden hose attachment here to our drain so that opening and closing your drain outlet for your fluid is really easy. And then you have like a 3 or 4 foot hose, cut-off hose running off of that, so you can put it wherever you want it to drain it into a bucket or whatever. So let's turn this guy on for you real quick. He runs fairly smooth. There's a little wobble, but there's a little wobble in every blade. You know, he's a pretty decent saw for a homemade one. I never really got the hang of counterweighting rocks and being as patient as I needed to be for them to cut, so I upgraded to a screw feed. That's why I'm selling this guy. If you have any questions on him, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Shut him down. And our next item, I'm going to close this back up. Okay, our next item is a 18-inch saw. Okay, that bluish teal color. He's another homemade saw, running off of an older motor. This one is a, oh gosh, I can't see, 1/3 horsepower motor with belts and pulleys. Originally this saw was set up to use either hydraulic or pneumatic tension in order to drive the carriage into the blade. Okay, so this was not a counterweight feed, and it was not a screw feed. Okay, so what you're going to see is the carriage, steel carriage with wooden blocks on the inside, is driven forward into the blade via a piston right here, a PVC piston, which hooks up into tubing and is controlled on the outside here. I do not know what kind of motor or pressurizing system or whatever you want to call it that needs hooked up in order to get this guy running again. Personally, when I bought him, I had intended to adapt him to a screw feed 3. Boy, I can't talk. A screw feed so that I could screw feed the carriage into the blade at a constant pressure. However, after talking with several people online, they actually recommended trying to salvage this system as it is, because the constant pressure into the blade would be a constant pressure, not a constant speed. So if you had a softer rock, it was still going to be forced into the blade at the same pressure as a harder rock, or a rock with different hardnesses within it. So you'd get a much smoother, cleaner cut. So rather than continue to mess with it myself, I cleaned it all up, mucked it all out, and took about 10 pounds worth of crud out of it to make it a little bit easier to move, and figured I'd just go ahead and sell it as is and keep my options open for a different saw later on. You'll notice that the carriage does move left and right fairly easily. Okay, we should be getting the gap on the left hand side to open up. Okay, and this clamps the vise together. So as I'm rotating that, those boards are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, so if you have any questions on this guy, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and plug him in. One thing I would do on this guy, just because of my personal concerns, is I would probably change the outlet. It's an older plug. It is grounded, but some of the plastic on it is dry rotting. And you can see it runs very, very smooth. Fairly quiet for a saw this size. The blade's running pretty true. See if I can get a close-up of it. Okay. So that's pretty smooth. I'll go ahead and turn that off real quick. And give you a good look at the blade. The blade still does have some life in it. It won't last you forever, but it does still have some life in it, and I'm sure you guys all know that 18-inch blades aren't exactly cheap. So it's definitely a good value for the blade alone at this point. I'm going to close this up, and we'll show you our next couple items. Next one is a simple 6-inch Rock Rascal trim saw. Okay, it's got a 1/4 horsepower motor on it. With a couple of, looks like 2-inch pulleys, or 1.5-inch pulleys, or something like that, going directly to the saw itself. It does have the little rock clamp on it, so you can move your rock into the blade fairly easily. It doesn't have an on-off switch, but this one does have a really nice cable on it, so you won't have to worry about rewiring this guy. He's plugged into our power strip there, so we're going to go ahead and turn him on and plug him in. And there he goes. Okay. So he's running pretty nice. Start coming down. And that's that guy. Okay, turn that off. What you're looking at here is a 20-inch blade. I got him because he was a good bargain at the time, but I don't have a saw that fits him. At the time I was hoping this 18-inch saw would be a 20 and that would fit inside, but it doesn't. It's only an 18-inch saw, not a 20. So I have a spare 20-inch blade that has a lot of life in it left. You can see does have a lot of life left in it. Last item is a shaker, which actually I bought from Penn State Salvage to sift through some garnets that I got in Philadelphia from their mica schist. So I put them in different containers with different levels of mesh, turned it on, and just let it sift out the harder material, the bigger material at the different levels, which you can see if I just flip on the switch here and turn it on with the power switch. Okay, so right now that's our high speed. Okay, you can turn it on low speed. Much different. Okay, so it does have 2 different speeds built into the switch. I'm sure if you adjusted the tension on this knob, you can find different results with it as well. But Not really a real complex design, so not really a whole lot that can go wrong with it. You know, you lose a belt, you put a new belt on, not a big deal. If you have questions about the trim saw, the shaker, the 18-inch saw, the 14-inch saw, or the 20-inch blade, please send me an email or give me a call. I'm going to say that's probably about it for this demo. If you have any questions, like I said, get a hold of me. Thanks. Bye.